This is truly a new era for Iran after the lifting of nuclear related international sanctions back in January 16th this year. Now, there's huge global interest in this nation. South African President Jacob Zuma was just visiting there at the moment. Preparations on the way for Korea's President Park Geun-hye's historic visit to Iran next month, the first time these two countries have ever held summit talks. There are various implications after Iran's opening up to the rest of the world, and today Iran's Consul General Dr. Mehdi Fakheri will shed light on the topic. He's an associate professor and acting dean of the School of International Relations in Tehran as well. He's a career diplomat, having served missions mostly in Europe, in Geneva, Madrid, Mexico, and this is his first appointment in Asia as Consul General of the Islamic Republic of Iran in Hong Kong and Macau. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Dr. Mehdi Fakheri.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure being here with you. I'm very pleased to see some familiar faces, which gives me the impression that there are people here who know Iran from very close and are in a position to verify what is going to be discussed in this room is correct or not, and give us their comments as well to enable us to get a real impression of what our journalist colleagues believe about the Iranian politics and economy. The title which I'm going to talk is about the post-sanction Iran and the emergence of Iran as a new regional power, as a pole of attraction for investment, and as well as a stability maker in the area of Middle East. But let me focus on 4 areas. The first is the agreement we achieved, and thanks to that, the situation has started to change. The second point is the outcome of that agreement and the deal. The fourth is the implications of this agreement at regional and global levels. And the fourth is that how it's going to affect our relations with China, Hong Kong, and the rest of East Asian countries. Now, the deal per se, I think it's a success story because it took 400 days with some records. I don't remember if U.S. Secretary of State has stayed outside his office for 17 days ever before. But this was something that made possible the agreement between Iran and 6 countries. And I would say the sanction removal showed that what Iran was claiming was right. So there was no diversion to military purposes in the nuclear activities of Iran, and the recognition of the Iranian position was a sample of the commitment of all countries involved in the process of negotiation. Now, we are facing some challenges, and I think we need to tackle them in the coming months. In theory, sanctions are lifted. In practice, Europeans and Asian countries follow the agreement and respect it. But in practice, we are facing some restrictions on the financial aspect of the agreement, because if delegations go to Iran or are exchanged, if agreements are achieved, but there is no financial mechanism to finalize these deals and agreements, then practically we continue in the same situation. So that is what I think the authorities are trying to find a solution for that. The Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and U.S. Secretary of State met last week, and I very much hope that we can find a solution. The second challenge we have been facing in the past 2 years is what we call in Iran the sanctioned business community. Because in the past 10 years, many countries, many interest groups, and many even NGOs have been benefiting from the lack of direct relations between Iran and its partners. So in the whole process, we have been witnessing the opposition of this sanctioned business community in our neighboring countries, inside US, inside Iran, and elsewhere. So the planning is in the way to, first of all, make this community think that in a normal situation they can continue doing business with Iran and they can continue benefiting from Iran. It's not necessarily the way of opposition or objection to this deal and this agreement that could make them successful. The second subject that I think we need to see is the outcome of this deal, which I would like to tackle from a political economy point of view. Because there has been political implications, economic consequences, and at the same time security considerations, and that is happening in a time when the global economy is slowing down, in a time where we had witnessed the plunging oil prices, and then the serious problems of foreign direct investment in developing countries. So this needs to be considered in a way that we get to real facts. Figures normally show part of the reality, but it needs to be complemented by the facts. One fact is that the security issue, the security outcome, we are witnessing the phenomenon which did not exist before. In the 20th century, the concept of terrorism was somehow symbolizing Arab-Israeli conflict or Latin American drug cartels, movements, etc., etc. Today, we are facing the most serious threat to the global peace and stability. No matter what the name of the group is, no matter what the ideology is, the issue is that the, terrorism and extremism have become a way of making money. If at the beginning of this century, Twin Towers were attacked, no matter if it was 9/11 or 7/11, but it happened, and the name Al-Qaeda was there. Then we saw the same group, same ideology with the hat of Taliban in Afghanistan, and now we are again seeing the same group, same ideology with the name of Daesh. So security threat for the world is something which was partly because of this deal intensifying and getting new form of terrorism. I think was somehow started by the Arab Spring. Then the forces from Libya moved to Syria and to Iraq, and then we are seeing what is happening and how all regional countries and European countries, before everybody was thinking that this is a threat for Middle Eastern countries, they will know how to manage it. But after San Bernardino, after Brussels, and after Paris, I think everybody realized that this is a global threat and needs a collective reaction. And for that, the security model in different countries, I think, is going to be affected. At the same time, we are facing political consequences of this deal, because what happened is that some neighboring countries that I could also classify them, part of them at least, as the business community of sanctions, felt threatened by this new agreement because they correctly realized that Iran is first negotiating and getting to an agreement, then is committed to respect the agreement, third is committed to cooperate with the international community. And we had this experience before. During the years of Taliban in Afghanistan, not having diplomatic relations with US, we cooperated with the United States to topple Taliban government. And if it was not for Iranian cooperation, I'm not sure if Americans could have achieved it. No matter if we were put on the axis of evil then by Bush administration. But that cooperation, again, repeated in the negotiation, I think gives the impression that to have a regional secure and stable environment, we need to have on board all countries and countries with certain capacity of securing the stability in the region. And the other political consequence, is that the war in Syria, in Yemen, in other countries has created also as I mentioned, change and anti-change technology by these terrorist groups. So if they could topple Muammar al-Gaddafi in Libya, they thought that they can do it again in Syria and then in Iraq. But the main reason, I'm not sure it was changing the government, but getting to the position where they are. Actually, they are controlling more than 20 oil fields in these three countries, making between $1.5 to $2 million US per day. So this is the richest terrorist group in the world, and the economy behind that. So oil is not something that you can sell it in a shop. Everybody knows the sellers and buyers of the oil. So it's not a big deal to track where and when and how Daesh is selling its oil. So this new economy of oil is something that we were not witnessing before. And then on the economic consequences, I would also say that despite the global slowdown, there are hopes that the financial crisis is over and the developed countries are in a position to assist developing countries to enhance partnerships and to make a better life for our citizens. Now, is it the only phenomena in the global economy? Since 2 years ago, we have been witnessing, which I would say was an oil coup d'etat, because the market was saturated by pumping oil by Saudi Arabia and other countries. I would say a bit to control or even diminish the economic capacity of Russia and Iran in the global market. But since we have had this experience before, because during the 8 years war with Iraq, we faced the same situation. Pumping oil took the prices to $6 a barrel, but we survived. Now again, although Iran is dependent on the oil revenues, but we could survive also with 1 million barrel a day, and we are now planning to go back to the previous production of 3.5 million, which we know will take some time, but we will be there. So, if Iran, with a population of 78 million inhabitants, with a population whose 50% is less than 30 years, meaning that needs to create 800,000 employments per year. And with a population highly educated, I think Iran is second country after United States for having engineers. Let's say thanks to sanctions, we could have progress in some areas in science production. For example, Iran is now fifth country in nanotechnology, and that is 100% local technology, because we didn't have access to foreign investment in those fields. Therefore, I think the situation we are living now, despite this oil crisis, let's say, is that Iran has survived. We could have reduced the inflation rate from 42% to 10.4% a month ago. And we are planning to make new investments and create an, let's say, enabling environment for private sector to become involved in the new era of reconstruction. Now, if that happens, that will certainly affect the economies of the countries around us who have been doing business only because of sanctions. There are small companies of 1.5 million inhabitants around us with practically no production, but the level of the volume of trade between Iran and those countries are more than 15 billion US dollars. So if there is a possibility of doing direct trade between Iran and other countries, I'm afraid those volumes will start disappearing. Or if some countries have been trying to benefit from the lack of financial mechanism and deliberately have delayed their, let's say, payments to Iran, I think now they will start finding solutions. And that's because the Iranian reserves outside Iran and the capital we are waiting to receive is more than 120 billion US dollars. So that is a possibility for countries interested in doing business with Iran to start studying, analyzing, and negotiating new investments. But at the same time, I think we need to pay attention to the realities. One reality is that US was our first trade partner before the revolution in 1979. After the revolution, European Union became our first trade partner until 2005. And from 2005 onward, China has been the Iranian first trade partner. Last year, we reached 42 billion US dollar. So one side of the coin is that Chinese government and Chinese companies have invested a lot in knowing the Iranian economy, in making the necessary mechanisms to do business with Iran. And the other side of the coin is that partly this volume has been because of the absence of other countries and other companies like Europeans, Japanese, Americans, etc., etc. So I would say, although we expect that the commercial relations might not be at the previous level with China, but we are sure that nobody in Iran, neither the government nor the people, will forget who was doing business with them when sanctions were there. So I think China is going to still have a privileged situation in Iran, and the trip of President Xi to Iran, I think, was one of the the success stories, talking of the agreements that they reached. Now, let me just mention as well to the issue, two issues that are of importance to the whole world, and one of them, because of this terrorism and extremism and civil wars in Syria and Iraq, is the issue of migration. Iran has been facing this same issue from the beginning of the revolution. We have been hosting more than 3 million Afghan and Iraqi the refugees in Iran, and for the past 35 years, we have been facing challenges because refugees come to your country, then they start, mixed marriages, then identity card for the family members, then the education, then we integrate them in the society or we keep them in their own colony. These are issues that will affect, I think, the European Union in facing the migration waves, and Iran is quite experienced in that way, how to deal with the migration difficulties and how to face the challenges and how to solve those problems. And the other issue as well is the narco traffic, because Iran has been always on the way of opium from Afghanistan to Europe and United States, and we have been suffering human and economic damages there. And then there is also another point of possibility of cooperation between Iran and different countries, including East Asian countries. So the possibility of finding subjects of common interest, I think, is what we need to do and to focus on that. And here, I think, as it was mentioned, the number of delegations who are traveling to Iran, we have had only 32 delegations from European Union in the past 6 months, all at ministerial level or higher levels. I'm not sure if we could have met the expectations we had at the beginning of this period of time. But I'm sure many subjects have come up during the negotiations, and that's because the same countries are sending new delegations to get to agreements, and these agreements are mainly on economic ties, security concerns, and some social problems that we have been facing, and we can have exchange of information on this issue. Now, on China and Hong Kong, I think we need to also pay attention to the political economy of the region and the world. The situation, you all know much better than me, that the change of, let's say, the power and power shift a little bit in transatlantic to Asia, it has been happening slowly, but it has happened. And now we have on one side the TTIP, on the other side we have the Belt and Road Initiative, which you can consider it an international organization, economic international organization, but at the same time we can also observe different policies and orientations inside them. If TTIP is mainly focused on developed world, Belt and Road Initiative intends to cover 65 developing countries, and Iran is one of them. Iran used to be one of the ancient founders of the Silk Road, and geographically speaking, we can also be a connecting point to between Asia and Africa, both on the road and maritime belts. So there is a possibility the agreements President Xi signed there were mainly on infrastructure projects. We are talking of 600 billion US dollars during 10 years, and that will create a huge panorama for investment, for technology transfer, for science and research, and also for political approachment in the area. Now, the presumption is that 30–40% of the trade of China with the rest of the world is being done through Hong Kong. If that is true, we can imagine the figures that might appear in the trade between Iran and Hong Kong, Iran and China. But we also need to take into account that intentions are very good, but at the same time, proper implementation is also needed. So the establishment of AIIB could be a complementing mean and tool to achieve those goals. But at the same time, I think countries like Iran, like Turkey, like China, and other Central Asian countries need to be involved on the planning and implementation of the Belt and Road Initiative. Now, Iran has become now an open market economy. We also, like China, we also have just started the 6th five-year economic plan, which is based on market economy. We had applied for the membership in the World Trade Organization, and I think we will be following it up very seriously. So that means that the economic policy is going to be in the direction of openness, receiving more investment, receiving more technology, and having more partnerships and joint ventures. Now, what we need, because of this lack of interaction with the international economy, is mainly concentrated in the energy field. We are in need of almost $100 billion in our energy, both in oil and gas, and that is both in upstream and downstream activities. We are in need of almost $40 billion of investment in petrochemical industry. We are in need of almost $55 billion of infrastructure projects. And then in different sectors, we have classified the needs and requirements of the country, which will create somehow the possibility of starting to negotiate with different countries. And one sector of interest to us is tourism, for two simple reasons. The first one is that during all these years when we were bombarded by CNN and BBC and other news agencies, the only channel to reflect the reality of our society was the tourism, because people were traveling to Iran, seeing the reality and reflecting it outside. And the second one is that Iran has 19 UNESCO World Heritages and has invested in those sectors, and we are planning to build infrastructure, road, airports, ports, hotels, and other facilities in tourism sector. Therefore, what we really have planned is to start normal relations with the rest of the world. Europeans have been interacting with us 2,000 years. I think we need to somehow plan to promote relations with East Asia and the rest of the world. BRICS countries are involved in Iran, both technologically and financially, and I think they will be more involved even from now on. And the panorama now is that we are living in a not very stable region. We need to have our security plans. Thanks God, Iran has been one of the few countries not affected by Daesh. We have secured our borders and frontiers, and if we have not done it, they were in Tehran because Iran was the objective. We have experienced this before, so we consider ourselves our success story combating terrorism and extremism. We have the potential of making our economy on the development objective and social justice objective, and then we are very much as well interested to have interaction at global level with a highly active or proactive role in regional and global issues. I thank you very much for your attention and your time. Thank you.
I was interested to hear you speak of a coup d'etat in the oil market that you clearly felt was directed very much against Iran and also Russia. Is there not a simpler explanation that in a much more fragmented market, no single oil producer or even a cartel of oil producers can command monopoly pricing power, and that therefore Saudi Arabia in particular has a very strong incentive, an economic incentive, simply to defend its market share by pumping as much oil as it can. So I'm intrigued why you think this is aimed in particular at Iran.
It depends how we define coup d'etat. If coup d'etat is a way of depriving a government from the possibility of governing its nation and to have to use its legitimate right to use its resources in the way they can, then this could be a coup d'etat. Because we have an organization which is called OPEC, which it happens that decide and determine the level of production and control the prices. So if production is done regardless of the official policies, and then the objective is clearly toward one or two countries, then we can consider it as a coup d'etat because I would say the reason which Saudi Arabia or other countries assisting Saudi Arabia and taking the same position took was exactly what I mentioned, trying to diminish the Iranian financial capacity and then force the Iranian government to change the policy. If not, we can think why this extra production did not happen before. Why when before Arab Spring this was not repeated. So we only have two periods of time, during the Iranian war with Iraq and during the negotiations with 5+1 on the nuclear issue. It was partly economic, but partly also trying to somehow force United States to leave negotiations or to change just the direction. Therefore, we consider that it could not be a simple production policy adopted by a government. That happens and it had been happening all over the history of OPEC. Many countries increase, many countries decrease. You have the Indonesia, they decreased the production voluntarily. Then instead of being an exporter, they became an importer of oil, still being a member of OPEC. So we are not talking about normal change of production or normal change of direction.
My question is on the infrastructure investment. So you mentioned a $600 billion number. Could you tell us more about the details? I mean, which sectors will be the focus? Is it, railway or highway or ports or pipelines or whatnot? And also, how would it be financed? By the government or by, public or foreigners? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, part of that, which has been agreed, is a high-speed train from Mashhad to Tehran, which is 900 kilometers. That has been agreed and signed. Then road building and highway building is the other sector. So mainly on infrastructure project, we are talking of the Ministry of Urban Housing and Transportation. Port building, port modernization, airport building. These are the areas where cities and places have been identified. The value of project has been determined, and then there had been negotiated. On the other side, we also have some industrial plans. For example, as I mentioned, the energy sector, the transportation sector, and the petrochemical sector is also on the negotiation, on the details, etc. We do have some figures on the different projects. For example, there is the complex microbiology complex, which is going to be developed by a German group, and I think South Korean as well company is also involved. So the identification of different sectors have been done, but talking of figures, I would say energy, petrochemicals, and infrastructures are the main three priorities of the government and are on the list of the projects which have been negotiated or are going to be negotiated later. Pardon? Financing is partly through the Iranian government, partly the AIIB and Asian Development Bank, and partly the governments interested to do so. China has already provided the financing. I would say it's partly the Hong Kong finance, partly China finance, and the third party is Iran. We have not yet explored the possibility of using IMF or World Bank funds as well, but I think it will be done in the near future.
Gentleman over there.
My name is Peter Berthold. I have a practical question. You mentioned there could be a role for Hong Kong as an intermediary between Iran and China. What are the travel restrictions or not restrictions? What is the visa policy? Can we go freely to Iran? How long do we need visa? And what is the way out?
There is no limitation for Hong Kong passports. We normally issue 3 working days. The visa, of course, here in Hong Kong, some company managers might have UK passports or Canadian passport or American passport. For those, we need 2 weeks because we need a reference number from Tehran, but it normally, for Hong Kong passports, it takes 3 working days. Last week, a delegation from General Chamber of Commerce went to Iran. Next week, another delegation of Federation of Hong Kong Industry is going to Iran. So there's practically no difficulties or problems in getting visa. We can also assist in arranging programs. through the Iranian government, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or through the Iranian Chamber of Commerce. So these are the services we are offering to business community to go to Iran. No.
Can you just comment on where things stands in regards to reconnecting Iran to the global financial system?
Well, on the privatization, we had this experience once. I should confess that the results were not so satisfactory. But the government plans to do it again in a better way. The problems we faced that time was that we put many public companies, state-owned companies on sale, but most of those companies were bought by pension funds, which happens to be public, and public and or private banks. So the assessment at the end of the process was that only 15% of those public companies have been passed to real private entities. What we are trying to do is that to put all these public assets on sale in the stock market if the companies are eligible. If not, then we have to find another proper way to privatize them. And then on reconnecting to the financial, international financial architecture, where we normally, when we go to ask the permission of a father to marry a girl, when we come back home and we are asked what was the result, we always respond, it's done, 50% is done, the other 50% we need to see. So as far as we are concerned, 50% is done. The problem is what we are facing in United States. Because many, let's talk in practical terms, here in Hong Kong, what we are facing is that no Hong Kong bank still has taken the initiative, for example, to open LC for Iran or receive Iranian letter of credit. Because of the fear of being again fined by American financial system. So although John Kerry says that the sanctions are lifted and banks and financial institutions do not have to worry about possible American measures, but I think the banking system by nature is a bit conservative and needs to see who takes the first step. European banks have started the operations, but we need to see much more.
I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Thank you very much, Dr. Fakheri.
Thank you.
And a token of our appreciation. Thanks, everyone.